Hi there, Chris here with another fresh tip for you all. In this video we are going to continue our look at painting the Royal Warden from the Necron faction in the Indomitus box set. And so as you can see, this model is all ready to go. We're going to work on the gun as we've done in the previous example. We're going to make it glow, and we're also going to do his eyes as well as his chest. To get us started, we're going to use Celestra Gray, some Lamian Medium, and we're going to slap a little bit onto the palette, about 2 drops of medium, and then I'm going to add about 2 drops of Liquitex Flowade. This is my favorite stuff here. Basically, we're turning this into a wash so that it'll flow into all the little nooks and crannies within the grill of the gun, as well as the little coily doodads on the barrel, the little, I don't know, little orbs or whatever they are on the barrel. I don't know what they are. But basically, we want it to flow inside those little details. So as you can see, we're just basically moving the brush through, not laying too much down at one point. If you do end up laying a little too much down, don't worry about it. The gun has been base coated in Abaddon Black, and we can just simply clean that up afterwards. We do want to saturate the areas pretty heavily, and then of course onto the chest we're also going to lay this in. Now the reason we're using Celestra Gray instead of using, like, say, a white or whatever, like White Scar, is basically I want to have a little bit of color variant in here. So I want to be able to lay down the indication of a gradient of color. We're not going to lay this out in the same sense that we had done in the previous examples. We're basically going to create a little bit of a directional glow, as it were, in these surfaces. So I applied the Celestra Gray in 2 layers into each of the little areas, as well as his eye sockets, which didn't get shown. Next, we're going to switch to some titanium white. This is from Golden. This is from their high flow line. And I'm simply just going to add 2 drops of Flowade to this because I want this to flow into the little nooks and crannies as well. And basically within the little barrel areas, I don't know what these are called, but I'm only going to go about 2 of the little orbs distance into the barrel. I want to have the glow intensify closer towards the back of the gun, towards the coils. And for the coils themselves, I'm going to just basically allow this to sit within the center of that. In the chest, I'm going to draw it up closer towards the sternum area of the ribs, as it were. Basically just laying this in, getting some intensity of the white into those areas. And of course, the eyes, I will also dot the main eyeball itself. Here you can see I'm simply doing the back of the barrel as well, just to show you guys that I am painting the other side of the gun. Usually we just kind of, move on, show the one side of it and move on, but here I'm basically doing the eyes as well. But again, as I mentioned, we are laying the groundwork for creating our glow and having some more deliberate, rather than in the previous example I just showed just simply laying the fluorescent color, which here we go, we're going to go with some fluorescent pink from Golden, and this is their high flow line. I'm going to add a little bit of Liquitex Flowade to this, make so it flows into all the little areas, and then basically lay this onto the entirety of the area where I had laid the Celestra Gray as well as the white. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to lay this in and build the color up. Now, if it doesn't look bright enough on the first pass, simply lay it again on the second pass using the same mixture, or if you had left it to dry, just come back and just, use it again and do the same thing. With the ribs, again, I fill in the entirety of that little cavity inside each of the little space between the ribs. Now, I do get some color onto the surface of the ribs where it is chrome paint still, and I will clean that up afterwards. Of course, if you're doing this with regular metallics, it's pretty straightforward to clear that up. And it's with the chrome as well, it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing magical or mystical going on here. There's a little too much here towards the back of the space on the ribs. Again, I do want to have this gradient of intensity towards the front of the chest, so we are just going to basically pick those areas out. And for the eye sockets, I simply just fill it in around the eye as well as on top of the eye. Again, because this is a fluorescent pink, it is really intense. It's really a lot of fun, and it's a great way to add the glow to the model without, having to light it up and everything like that. Here I'm basically just laying in my second layering. Again, I'm laying more intensity towards where it gets a little darker. I'm okay with filling up some of the area where it was a little bit whiter. That color is just going to be a lot brighter in those areas where I had initially laid more white down. We can come back and lay a little bit more white down on top of that afterwards. Quinacridone Magenta is next. This is Liquitex ink. This is a water-based acrylic ink. And on the barrel, I'm just going to do the ends of these last little orbs towards the ends of the gun. And I also do them on the second orb, but not quite as far where the break is. Here on the coils, I just do the outer perimeter, and the bottom of the coils, I do lay the second layer down. You can see it kind of creeping up into the coils, and I'm fine with that. Here, I'm just laying a little bit more on the top, just again to create a little bit more intensity in those areas. I still want it to remain quite magenta, but not, so fluorescent. Here you can see on the back of the ribs, I'm just simply laying in more of the color, getting a deeper tone in those areas again. And because we have the ink thinned out just ever so slightly, we do get a slight gradient. Now I also go back and you can see there, I'm just slightly laying it in just where the rib and that kind of back surface meet up. It's kind of a 90-degree angle back there. And I'm allowing the ink to reside within that space, giving us a little bit more dimension and a little bit more depth into those areas. There's also a third space in there, but it doesn't really show up on the camera here, so I just kind of skip past it. And for the eye, I just simply touch underneath the eyeball just to get a little bit of darker tone underneath the eye, and again create a little bit of separation so we have just a bit more of a glow and some more intensity in those eyes. But it's a really fun way. Of course, you can finesse this as much as you like. Here I'm just simply coming back in with a little bit more magenta and just filling out wherever I'm not quite happy with how it looks. Here on camera it's really quite bright, but to the eye I could tell the difference where there was some intensity that was just a little bit lacking. Also, you can see I also bring the color back to that third little orb as well, because just again to create that little transition again, just because this fluorescent color, it is not totally opaque and relies upon the white to give you that intensity, and so you can play with that and create blends and such. Titanium White is next from High Flow. Using this all on its lonesome, no thinners. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little bit more white to the forwardmost coil, and then taper it back lighter and lighter towards the coils that are closest to his hand that's gripping the gun. Again, just to create a bit of a gradient and just a little bit more depth and visual interest. Inside the little spaces here, I simply just touch the center closest to that central orb, and I also do the other side, but in hindsight I also cover that up, so it's just that little bit of intensity just towards the back of the barrel. On the chest, I simply just touch it just a little bit inside that space in there, again just to build a bit more intensity inside there, as I kind of wanted to have this this alien furnace kind of burning inside his chest kind of thing. And he's got the power, and of course we did the power cables in the previous video, and again it's just kind of running with that theme that he's powering everything up. Here's what I use for the metal is the Spastics mirror chrome, a little iso alcohol, and a synthetic brush, and I basically just clean up those ribs. All I do is I just touch those areas and just basically allow the paint to fly onto that surface, and it covers over anything you've done before pretty well. Abaddon Black is next, and this is just to begin basically cleaning up the areas on the gun. We're going to add a drop or two, or just a drop of Lamian Medium, just to thin the color out ever so slightly. We're going to grab our detail brush and then begin cleaning up on the weapon itself, and basically clearing up this bar that goes across the coils, and just all around going and cleaning up areas, and that's really much about it. And on the barrels themselves, again, because we were pretty haphazardly in our application of color onto those areas, we will be very careful when we're going through and just picking out the outside surface, as well as the little orbs inside that line. Again, just giving us that transition going on with the color. And as we clean up the black, it definitely turns a lot more intense. And again, we can kind of see the gradient. Now, the camera doesn't quite pick it up. When the model is turned a little away from the camera, it's not quite the light is not quite as bright. You can see the gradient of color. To the eye, you see the gradients of color, but Next, we're going to use some white alchemy, and again, this is just to further clean up some areas along the ribs, essentially, and on the face. I'm basically just going to use this as a highlight along the bottom portion of each of those little spaces within the ribs themselves, just putting a little edge highlight. Again, I like this look, and I may do it more to the model, just because when the model is not facing light and it's kind of, there's kind of a dark side to it, you still see that little slight edging, and I really like that look, especially when you're looking at these models in person. So here I'm just touching up some other little areas on his collar there, that little Necron icon. With the eye, I'm just basically getting underneath the eyelid, which would be just above the cheekbone, as it were, and then you can see on the other side of the face, as well as the bridge of the nose. I catch that, and then of course I think I move into the teeth as well. Yeah, I just catch just the teeth, just again to bring that out and just, make them look a little bit more intimidating and scary. And again, you can still hear the music, dun 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 dun. So that is the chest glow and weapon glow for our Royal Warden. It's as easy as that. Do not be afraid to give this one a try. And of course, I will move into picking out the other details on the gun, just giving the highlights and stuff like that. Big thank you to all my patrons. Without their support, these videos would not be possible. If you're considering Patreon support, click the link in the description below, and it'll take you off to a magical website called Patreon, where there's varying tiers to support this channel. And a huge thank you to everybody who currently does. Take care of those brushes, and they will take care of you.